How are you all? Who's had a fantastic day? Who's ready to make some serious money? Who's ready to have a seriously sexy night? Come on, who wants to be turned on tonight? Because who ever thought tax could be sexy? And super could be sexy? Come on, who thought it could be? Oh, I don't know about this. Come on, who thought it could be sexy? Come on. I don't know, Eric, I think some points should be taken off here. What do you reckon? Come on, who thinks it's sexy? That's better. So, tonight, you heard Sasha teach you about insurance and how to protect yourself. Now I'm here to teach you to insure yourself against scumbags who want to steal your assets. Who wants to be scumbag-proof tonight? Yes. Not talking about your girlfriend or whatever else either. Okay, my disclaimer. Basically what I'm saying in simple terms is it's educational only. Don't run off and do a whole lot of structuring on the basis of this. In other words, this is here to teach you tonight. Don't basically go off and now think you're a qualified accountant after tonight. Okay, Eric's given a bit more about me. I'm a qualified lawyer, accountant, financial planner. In simple terms, I'm a nerd. Without much life. So lawyer, what made me become a lawyer? Because I wanted to be a trustworthy person. Come on, you know, like a used car salesman. Now, why did I become a lawyer? I became a lawyer because basically I've always been passionate about the law since I was younger, and one of the things I'll talk a little bit about is one of my little pet passions, and Derek, who works with me 2 months ago, got a bit of taste of my skills in that area, is getting out of speeding fines and parking fines. Now, who thinks that's really sexy? And getting myself out of voting fines and having not done a census since 1996, who thinks that's pretty cool? Census, you know, government data collection. In other words, I'm a big believer in doing the things you want to be doing, not because someone forced you to do it. Who likes it? Yeah, I think we're so overregulated in this country, so I'm always trying to find ways around it. There's a story that my mum reckons when I was 5, that there was a university party where my dad used to lecture at, and there was a massive queue going way, way up for the pony ride. So left me there, thought they'd see me in an hour's time. 2 minutes later, they see me riding a pony. Now, they said, I don't know if to say how I did it, but they said, you pretty much always try to find a way to break the system and beat the rules. Who's like that? I always believe queues were for other people. I remember in the school canteen, I used to have, I worked out techniques to jump queues. One of my favourites was when I was 8, I was at the footy. There's a massive, massive queue for a Misty Whippy van. So I quickly worked out in my mind, I thought, I want to watch the game, not wait in the queue. So I walked all the way up the front, and I was just staring at the board with the prices. People looked at me, then looked away. The guy then around goes, can I help you, mate? I go, yeah, just give me a chopped cone, please. Who thinks that's clever? He thinks it's very naughty. But I like to find ways, and I'm the same with tax and structuring. I'm a big believer in that Australia, we've got more laws than we can poke a stick at. I mean, there's 1 million pieces of new laws get passed every year. 1 million pages of law comes out. Who thinks that's pretty insane? Anyone know it all? No, and yet they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. Pretty insane? Goes back, that original law, by the way, ignorance of the law is no excuse, went back to the days when common law, when law was more a verbal thing and just a few written things out. It was never intended to be a situation like today where you have so many rules that I don't know anybody who knows them all. Accountant, about numbers, about figures, about keeping tax, that kind of stuff. Ever since I was young, one thing I always loathed and hated was the high tax rates you pay in Australia. I remember when I was 18 going to uni, actually buying a book just that taught about tax havens and reading it really excitedly and telling a girl I was dating when I was 19, she goes, what do you want to do as you get older? I said, I want to get people out of paying tax. Surprisingly, didn't turn her on too much, but I thought it should have. Who'd be turned on by that? Come on. Get out of paying tax. And financial planner. Okay, so background. 10 years at the ATO. So as Eric said, I worked for the dark side, and now, hallelujah, I've seen the light. You do learn a few things when you're in there, and one of the things I discovered was with tax audits, and there was so many very sexy ways you can basically deal with tax office and handle audits. And I've represented a number of clients in my time. I've been an auditor. I've had people like you quaking in their boots. Who thinks I would have been a really horrible auditor? Anyone? Oh, thanks, Dill. Who thinks I would have been a real sweetheart? Oh, I have to give you some points, I think. What team are you in? 6. Team 6. Yeah, 2 points for Team 6 because she flattered me. 2 points. Who's Team 7, by the way? Okay, that's my favourite number. Can we give some points for Team 7, please? Thanks. Couple of points. Yeah, perfect. It's my favourite number. Who thinks it's abuse of power? But it's the beauty, of course, of being on stage, see? Okay. Who's into law of attraction and mindset? Because as much as investment, as Jamie talked today, is about mindset, I'm going to tell you now, part of building wealth is learning to deal with government authorities and the people who basically tell you what to do. And unfortunately, I remember when I was 9 years old, Mr. Summers, my teacher, telling me, Warren, there's some things in life, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, people are going to tell you what to do and you're going to have to do it. And I didn't like hearing that, but sadly I found there's been some truth in that. I've never been someone who's liked doing things I don't want to do. Anyone like that? Yeah. I hate admin, hate paperwork. It's funny, I'm an accountant and lawyer. I actually hate admin. I hate paperwork. Yeah. I actually hate filing that kind of stuff, and yeah, I do it, but it's not stuff I particularly enjoy, so now I get other people to do it for me. But there are things you'll have to do and learn if you're going to be serious. I mean, who here is actually serious, not just about getting excited, having an emotional buzz for the weekend, but actually going away, applying themselves, making some money? Put your hand up. Because that's what it will take. And if you're serious about applying yourself to make some money, you're going to have to learn how the rules work. Do you think that Warren Buffett knows how the rules work? Do you think Donald Trump knows how they work? Do you think Robert Kiyosaki knows how they work? Do you think they know ways around some of the rules? Do you think they don't do anything dodgy, though? They would put him in jail. Who thinks they would do dodgy things that would put him in jail? No, they don't, because they basically say, as Robert Kiyosaki says, no point going to jail and being an idiot. I mean, is it worth going to jail for money? Is it? No. But there's plenty of ways around the laws, and the more laws there are, the more loopholes there are. But understanding the mindset, the biggest thing I find in dealing with clients and friends is actually the mindset that's been brought into Australia about if someone tells you what to do, like government, in other words, if someone says something to you, you just got to do it. It's a bit like, I believe personally, comes back to our convict sort of origin, that we almost used to, if someone tells you what to do, you just do it. Who knows what I mean here? And Derek actually recently, I helped him with a speeding fine. It probably took me about an hour just to get him to the point of time to realise that he could actually contest this fine, and actually it wasn't up to him to admit guilt on the fine. Because he kept saying, yeah, but I was driving the car. I'm saying to him, yeah, but they're saying you did drive in the car. You make them make the assertion. That's basically one of the ways to get out of it, is I force them to make the assertion. In other words, I believe innocent until proven guilty. Who thinks that's pretty good? That was our common law thing, which I might add, that people shed their blood in our country and in England to get. Well, people actually shed blood and went to jail. The William Penn case is one of the... You should always get an internet and read that one. The guy who founded Pennsylvania. Penn was actually tried because he was a religious speaker, and he actually was speaking on the streets and got charged under a law they'd brought out saying that no one could speak their truth on the streets without having government licence. Who thinks that's insane? So he basically got up before the jury and said, this is insane. He said, you can't do this. He said, when government starts saying what I can speak and what I can't say, eventually it'll just be a political choice as to a few, despots, basically, or dictators. And to cut a long story short, the judge basically said to the jury, you've got to convict this man, he's broken the law, just put him in jail. The jury refused to convict him. The judge made the jury go into a dungeon with bread and water for a night to reconsider their verdict. It's a true story. They came back next day and they said, we're keeping our verdict. The judge put them for 2 days with stale bread and water in the dungeon to reconsider their verdict again. Now, who thinks this is a pretty brave jury by now? Who here would have been willing to do that here today for somebody else? Yeah, I mean, I hope some of you who put your hand up, it's the truth. But this jury basically were willing to go in the dungeon when they probably got families, they probably got kids at home, because they knew this was wrong, what they were seeing. And basically the judge kept sending them into the dungeon, and finally there was a media outcry. It went all over England, and that actually resulted in the law being changed and putting the right to trial by jury and the right to judges not being able to overrule juries, and giving us a lot of the rights you got today, entrenched in law. Innocent till proven guilty being one of them. Because under that law, it was guilty till proven innocent. Speeding fines, are you innocent till proven guilty or guilty until proven innocent? You're guilty, you get the ticket, you're guilty, you've got to now appeal it. Why am I talking about this kind of stuff? Well, one, it's interesting, and I'm sure you're finding this fascinating, right? Yeah. Secondly, it strongly relates to tax as the protection and everything else, because this whole thing is part of a web, part of a matrix. That understanding the tax law, everything. And when you get this mindset into you that says, I'm sovereign, I'm free, I'm not here to break laws, but I'm not here to be governed or by what I call arbitrary laws, you'll be amazed at how your mind starts to see opportunities. It's like the traders, the people who are trading, the millionaires. Do you think they keep seeing opportunities that you're missing? Do you? Why? Their minds are open, they're in that space. Do you think I see things in laws that a lot of you don't? Yeah. Why? Because I'm open to it. And it's not just because I've studied law. I personally think a lot of law is common sense. Some of the best legal minds I've ever met are not lawyers. Seriously. Two of the best legal minds I've ever met and who I learnt the most weren't actually lawyers. They just taught themselves from reading books and just using common sense. Who thinks law's common sense? A lot of it is meant to be common sense. Is the law today common sense? No, it's nonsense. It is nonsense. It doesn't have sense. So understand that if you want to move into this game of what I call wealth building, this game of life, this game of what I call real life monopoly, where you're buying houses, where you're in US and Australia, where you're trading, and you hear about this weekend, you have to have the mindset of an investor or business person, and that means understanding the government authorities and what you're up against, and understanding how to deal with these people. As you'll see shortly, the average person in business gets sued 3 times in their lifetime over on the east coast of Australia. So in other words, the moment you start making money, it's not a question of if you'll be sued, it's what? It's when. Many lawsuits never end up in court. In fact, most don't. And ends up having to be settled out of court. My family, you've met my oldest William. That's him on there. That's his twin brothers, James and Edward. That's Josiah, the youngest, the handsome one, looks like me. Come on here. And although we're separated, that's Grace, mother of my children. So, very important part. They're looking after the other 3 right now. Okay, so what are we covering today? We've gone through who am I and why I'm here, how to protect your assets. And on protecting your assets, it's very important to get this, because one of the things I find with people all the time is with protecting assets is a lot of people think, I don't need to do this. But let me ask you something. Who here has a car they drive? Put your hand up. Put your hand up here if you have a car worth more than $10,000 and you're not insured. Okay, one person. Anyone here who's got a car less than $10,000 and not insured? There are quite a few. In other words, why have you not insured your car? Because generally the amount's so small, you're not bothering and you're taking the risk, correct? You're pretty much self-insuring. But everyone else, put your hand up if you expect to crash your car in the next week or so. Put your hand up. No one. Put your hand up if you expect to get cancer or serious illness in the next 2 weeks. No one. Okay, how many of you have got health insurance though? Put your hand up. How many of you expect to die? Eventually. How many of you expect to die very shortly, like really shortly? No, but how many of you got life insurance right now? So you don't know when calamity is going to hit. You don't know when suddenly the accident's going to come. You don't know. You could go home this weekend and find a paper waiting on your doorstep where someone's suing you, a next door neighbour, for something you've done. And believe me, you don't have to be in business these days to be sued anymore. People get sued for things all the time. The next door neighbour of my house, actually, his dog bit one of my children. and fortunately it wasn't too serious, but he gashed his leg pretty badly. And we weren't going to make a big deal of it because I knew straight away what happened. My attitude was just put the dog down and let's just keep it between us. But unfortunately, another neighbour saw the incident and reported it to the council. So now the council want to use him as an example to prosecute him for having an unregistered dog and go after this poor guy. So there's laws galore around now. You can get arrested for all kinds of things. There's hoon legislation. You've got legislation right now in WA. Get this one. This is a classic. They passed these laws that allow them to confiscate proceeds of crime. But what's happened is there's an old couple right now who are fighting the government in court because what happened was their son got caught with cannabis on their property. So they had no idea their son was growing cannabis on the property. So they're trying to seize the old couple's house from them on the basis that it was used as a house for criminal activity. They had no idea that their son was doing this. Who thinks it's outrageous? But this is what's going on right now. And if you don't know it or unaware of it, it's just, again, it's ignorance. How many of you believe here, if you had all the knowledge that, say, Donald Trump had, you'd probably be more financially better off? I think many of you. How many of you believe, therefore, that if you had, say, knew some of the stuff I knew about tax asset protection, you'd be structured very differently? Yeah. I see stuff all the time, and it's usually too late, too little, too late. So what I'm here today is to say to you that every single person in this room right now, you're one day away from losing your assets. And I mean that, every one of us. I've had how many lawsuits so far? And 1, 2, 3. Yes, so I've already hit the 3. None of them gone to court, by the way. 2 of them were so ridiculous that pretty much they went to mediation, and the media just said, I don't understand why Mr. Black's being sued here. His advice has been exemplary. She admitted after the mediation hearing to me that she had no issue with me, but her son was very sick with an incurable disease, and she couldn't sue the family lawyer because the family lawyer was at a time on a statute of limitations, so she picked me because I was the only person left to sue. Totally serious, 100%. I had someone put a notice on me to sue me for setting up a structure for them. I remember sitting with them in complete frustration in mediation, saying to them, I don't understand, you know as well as I do that structure was set up properly. And they kept arguing, and eventually they basically admitted they just lost $100,000 in an investment and they're trying to recoup their losses. Are you getting a bit of a picture here? Because often we think people sue because, well, you know, if someone's been sued, there's a good reason they've been sued because the media and the government brainwash us like that. But I can tell you now, many lawsuits have got nothing to do with fairness and equity. They've got just to do with the fact that someone's wanting to get some money. So, this weekend is the beginning of a new life for you to start to make money. Do you want to keep your wealth in an impregnable fortress, yes or no? Yes. You want to keep yourself safe from being sued. It's so easy and cost effective when you know what you're doing. You don't have to spend 20 grand to do it. You can spend minimal cost, be set up, and just like that, you know your wealth is secure. Who here would love to know ways to make sure you only pay the ATO what you have to? Yeah, there's plenty of things you can do. I go through a few little tricks. And superannuation. Now, who here would love to invest in property or start trading, but you don't have much cash, but you do have some money in your super? Put your hand up. Quite a few of you. See, again, through a self-managed fund, depending on what you've got in there, you may be able to do that. They're talking this weekend about US property. We've just done this ourselves, where we've just set up a syndicate and just bought a whole lot of US property and using our super funds. Really simple, much better investment. Returns are, which I'll be talking about this weekend, something like between 10 and 18% per annum. Who thinks it's much better than what you're probably getting now? With capital growth potential. So, and the great thing about superannuation is you only pay 15% tax, and who here is over 60? You pay nothing. You pay no tax at all. Who thinks it's starting to get really, really sexy? Who knows really getting turned on? No one, gosh. I think you guys need to be spiced up a bit. Maybe some offer of bonus points. I will give 5 bonus points though to the group. Team centre what? Are you now? That's good. Good starting point anyway. Okay. Too much tax. Who thinks we pay too much tax in Australia? Do you want to know how much tax the average person pays? 69%, according to Ray Regan National Taxpayer Association. GST, income tax, what else do we have? Fuel, alcohol, excise, stamp duty, payroll tax, rates, carbon tax, speeding fines, flood levy, you name it. Who thinks it's getting pretty insane already? There's a very interesting fact, which who's into conspiracy facts here? It's very interesting. I've done about 10 years, 15 years of studying all this kind of stuff, and one thing I'm now absolutely convinced of is that income tax is used entirely to pay national debt. It's a national debt payment. That they've actually get more than enough money from the other taxes to cover it. Income tax is purely to pay banks' national debt. So pretty much making you all a slave to the government for national debt. And hence the Commonwealth of Australia is now registered in Washington, DC. Who thinks that's pretty unsexy? We're a registered corporation in Washington, DC, and all of you are basically debtors to this corporation being chased down. Who thinks that's super unsexy? I could spend hours teaching you this, but it's not the purpose of today. The biggest problem we have, fear of losing assets. Let me ask a question here. Say that you were going home tonight and you got there, and when you got home, you found a letter waiting under your door. You open it up and it's basically a notice of somebody who's intending to sue you basically for everything you've got, and you realise that you are most likely going to lose all your assets. Put your hand up if you would be highly stressed by that. You knew it was very likely you'd lose your assets. Put your hands up if you think it would affect your relationship with a loved one, like your spouse or partner. Yeah, I mean the biggest cause of marriage and relationship breakups is what? Money, that's right. So, basically what you want to do is protect your marriage, protect your relationship. So, see me not just as an asset protection tax lawyer, I'm also a fantastic relationship counsellor. I'm giving you great relationship counselling advice here. Who's in a relationship or married today? Okay. Well, look at me as your saviour tonight. I'm here to help you save your marriage by structuring yourself and making sure you don't get in a fight. Seriously, it's the biggest cause of relationship breakdowns. And if you aren't structured right and don't have things right, you're greatly putting your risk up. And I ask this question. With car insurance, why do we insure our cars? Because we don't want to be up for 50 grand, 60 grand to buy a new car, correct? Okay, who here would want to replace your whole $300,000 or $400,000 or $1 million or $100,000 assets? Who can do that right now? No one. So, asset protection insurance, using companies, trusts and other structures and little things like this can basically shore your assets up so no one can touch you. Stress. What happens to your creative ability when you've got stress in your life? Does it go up or down? Disappears. So let's just say that you're at risk of losing everything right now, of going bankrupt, losing a lot. Do you think your capacity for creative ideas has been diminished somewhat? Yes? Who finds under stress you really find it harder to think clearly? I know that. I've been through some great success in business. I've been through some horrible times. I mean, any of you who feel bad or feel like you've made some silly mistakes, I reckon I beat a lot of your hands down. I've done some absolute pearlers for someone who's a lawyer, accountant, financial planner. I've been scammed twice, and one of the scams was such an absolute dummy scam, but just about a baby could have picked it, and I got scammed by it. I'm serious, about 11 years ago. In a business that I had that didn't work out, it was because of some of the stupidest decisions you're ever likely to see in your life. So believe me, I can teach a lot of this stuff because as well as doing some good things, I've done some unbelievably dumb things. I mean, so dumb, I sit back and look and shake my head and wonder what I was smoking at the time, because if it wasn't working. So, and believe me, when I was going through that, I was having major stress. I have to say though, it did toughen me up, and these days I've noticed that when I go through stress or challenges, it hardly phases me, to be honest with you. And Even now, for example, one of the things I've become very good with helping clients is when people are chasing them for money or dealing with people. Because when I had everyone in the world chasing me for money all the time, and you're falling under the pressure, eventually you toughen up and learn to get through it, which I did. So these days, I recently had the ATO actually calling about a particular client situation, and the client had rung their financial control, had rung the ATO were ruthless, they weren't going to give them any plan. And I rang them up and pretty much said to them, very friendly, hi. I said, look, I'm just ringing up to let you know that you will be giving a payment plan to this person. They said, oh, really? I said, yeah, you will be. I said, otherwise we'll fight you. I said, so you will be doing it. I said, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm just ringing up to tell you that we don't appreciate or tolerate you guys using your bully power to come against legitimate businesses and try and make their cash flow tighter when they're trying to get themselves out of a mess. So I said, you're not going to be guilty of that, are you? The girl, she laughed. She goes, when you put it that way. So I said, you are giving a payment plan, aren't you? 18 months? She goes, how about I give you 2 years? Who thinks that's really sexy? See? So knowing how to handle them. One of my favourites, though, was one of my cleaner, actually. Her son was getting bullied. She'd been through a bad marriage separation, and her son got affected pretty badly by it. He's getting bullied at school. And to cut a long story short, I said to her, there's an easy trick to handle this. Went to the school, gave him had a bit of a chat to him very nicely, and I said to him, look, I'm sure you're aware of your duty of care as a school and you can be sued. Who thinks that's magic words straight away? So I said, just letting you know this child is being bullied and I'm sure you don't want this to happen. No, absolutely not. Within 12 hours, the bullying was stopped. She's been trying to stop it for 6 months. Who thinks that's really sexy? Yeah. See, there's so many things you can do when you know the law and know how to deal with it. So stress, like I'm mentioning here, and that's why by being yourself structured, I have a lot of structure in my life now. I manage stress very well now because I've got structure in my life. Every morning I wake up, I'm disciplined, I go for a walk, I do my exercises, I do everything for an hour every morning. I have very strict breakfast, the whole lot. The more structure and routine in your life, the more successful you are. Same with my finances, same with everything. I'm about nipping problems in the bud. Who wants to nip problems in the bud and stop them even coming your way? Well, if you've got car insurance, then you're already doing it. Blindly trusting your accountant to fix the problem is a failed solution. Who in their life has been burnt by blindly trusting somebody? Put your hand up. Yep, most of us have. I did in a scam. One of the things I learned too was years ago I had like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, nervous disorder. I was in such chronic health. I was in pain all the time, could hardly sleep, can't do anything. Anyone ever had a bad health condition? Pretty horrible, isn't it? And for 2 years I went to every doctor, specialist, acupuncturist, quack, you name it, spiritual healer, weirdo, whoever pretty much said they could heal me. And after 2 years, I was worse. So eventually I decided that blind trust in the medical profession was doing what? Nothing. So what do you think I did instead? Alternative. I went and studied health. Alternative, yeah, I studied it myself. I went and started looking at different things, tried different things. 3 years later, fixed up, healed. Who thinks that's really sexy? So these days, pretty much most things when I get it. I mean, a very good example. Yesterday, when I got on the plane on Wednesday, basically to come to Brisbane, I had a toothache building. It literally went insane to the point where I could hardly think. I was in agony. I woke up yesterday. I was almost in bed the whole day. I felt so terrible. Hardly slept. Why am I up speaking? Because one thing I've learnt from my health study was how to mitigate that or stop that. I just basically drank lots of water and put bicarbonate soda in the water. I learnt this from there's a dentist in the 1930s who wrote a book about the pH levels in your mouth that can actually stop decay and get your mouth starting to heal up. And his work was basically poo-pooed by the dental profession, but not until he basically fixed up many people and stopped them having to get fillings or anything like that. So this naturopath showed me this work. About 6 months ago I did this, stopped myself having root canal. I basically did that, and within 48 hours I'm up here and I only feel pain now in the bottom of the tooth, no pain otherwise. Who thinks that's sexy? Without going to a dentist, nothing. Just cramming bicarb soda into my mouth. Not the tastiest, but does the trick. Would you rather be sick or have good taste? Yes, so... Okay, so The point I'm making is, who thinks it's important to have knowledge education? Who thinks it's even more important, therefore, to be with the right advisors and specialists to help you through things? If I had the wrong naturopath, who knows, I could have been having all sorts of stuff. There used to be days I would have taken painkillers and drugs like Panadine Forte, not knowing of the damage it was doing to my stomach and intestines. So see, knowledge is a very powerful thing. So the fail solution is blindly trusting. Who here has blindly trusted a financial advisor or accountant and been burnt? Put your hand up. Yeah, that's right. So again, you want to be using the best advisors, but you want to have enough knowledge to make sure that when you go to that auction, you know the right name to put your property in. When you go to open your trading account, you know what name to put your trading account in. When you're doing your trading, you know that you have a trading plan to make sure you can claim your deductions. Important knowledge. Know that when you're buying your properties, never buy them in a company, only buy them as an individual or company as trustee for a trust. Otherwise, you'll pay twice as much tax. Are these important stuff? Yeah. One of my clients, $67,000 too much capital gains tax because they signed the contract in the wrong name. Who thinks that's extremely unsexy? Totally serious. 67,000. Has that sunk in? The wrong name. Who would be crying at home and probably eating jubes the next day to recover? Few people. So the successful solution is learn how the law works. Understand tax and asset protection laws. Apply what you've learned and deal with the advisors that millionaires use. One of my favourite quotes about knowledge is power. Who thinks that Trump's knowledge is pretty useful to him in this world? Most exciting thing is he knows. Anyone here at the Branson event, the FES event? Yeah, Richard Branson made it was a great speech, wasn't it? Just talking about his knowledge and humility. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. On that note, let's get on to protecting your assets. Now, fortunately, Lou Hardy is not here tonight because Lou Hardy always seems to basically sabotage our presentations and normally removes the words ET and puts asses. So protect your asses, basically, the last few times. Which I am, protecting your asses, but actually protecting your assets. 4 good reasons to protect your assets. Just a bit of light humour, but sad truth. Some of the things that companies are now putting on their products to avert lawsuits. Anyone tried to eat an Apple iPod lately? Anyone ever tried to put a hairdryer on while sleeping?
I don't know, I was asleep.
The next one, I could very easily have used as a dental drill yesterday the way my tooth was feeling, but electric rotary tool, this product is not intended for use as a dental drill. And this costume is not suitable for flying on a Superman costume. You've got some pretty classic ones. I've seen at the beach now. We got rocks there and a sign on the rock saying, "Warning, rocks. Do not dive into these rocks." I mean, it's pretty nuts. Lawsuits. I've mentioned about the fact the average person gets sued 3 times in their lifetime. A lot of people say to me, "Warren, but look, I'm okay, I've got insurance, don't rely on them." Are insurers a charity organisation or are they a profit-making business? Do they make money from paying you or by denying your claims? Okay, I know for a fact from insurance people who've worked on the inside that insurance companies have full-time lawyers paid whose job is to scrutinise claims and try and get you out of them. Or try and get an insurance company out of them. Sorry? That's right, Sasha. Yeah, a bit of plug for Sasha over there. So, I know, for example, with one of my friends who worked for one major insurance company, she said the insurance company was pretty good, but if they got close to 30th of June and the claims budget was about to be blown, they had lawyers going all out to try and basically find a way to get out of it. So, yes, by all means, on life insurance and disability, make sure you go see Sasha. She's pretty good. She looks after myself and quite a few people. Governments want your money. So don't try stealing, you're competing. Most Ron Paul up there, a US congressman who's very passionate about this kind of stuff. But when law starts becoming used as an instrument to steal from people, and when governments can start confiscating properties or taking cars off people for minor infractions, is it stealing or is it law? If a government tomorrow said they were going to start taxing 100% of your income and taking the full amount and then giving you back what they felt like, is that stealing or is that tax? What do you think? If the government basically took all your money off you and only gave you back what they felt like, is that stealing or tax? I would say it's stealing. If the government takes 90% of your money and leaves you 10%, stealing or tax? If it take 80%, 69%, 59%. We all know this inherently, don't we? There's a very interesting article written by a US economics professor who's actually worked out that if the government charged a 10% tax on 1% on consumption, 10% income tax, with no deductions and no loopholes in law, they would make a lot more money. You know why? Because people would have no incentive to get out of paying tax. Let's say that you could pay me 10 grand to get out of 50 grand tax, would you do it? Yeah. You would, wouldn't you? But let's say that it would cost you 10 grand to me to get out of 5 grand tax, would you do it? No. He actually discovered. So really the sole reason the tax system is like it is now is to keep all the lawyers, accountants and bankers in business. Who loves keeping them in business? Yeah. Who doesn't? Seriously. Everyone else does also. So in other words, lawsuits taking a crack at you. I've got a client or friend of mine who was sued by the government because of spam laws. This guy basically went ahead and before spam laws came out in 2004, he used to go online, take email addresses off the internet and just email them out to his mailing list. When the spam laws came in, he stopped doing it. About a year later, the government actually went after him as a spammer, and he said, well, I'm not a spammer because this was after the laws came in. The court decided that he was still a spammer because he should have gone through all 69,000 of his emails and work out one by one which one should be removed. Who thinks that's rather insane? So, his argument was, well, number one, it was before the law came in. Secondly, they could just write to me and I'll take their name off the list. Is that fair? He got fined because the government wanted to make an example of him, $4 million. $4 million, which was, by the way, his net worth was only just over $4 million. Fortunately, he was structured in companies and trusts. Do you want to know how much money the government actually got in the end? Zip. I think in the end he paid them some small sum as a settlement. Another one of my clients in Sydney owed $970,000 to tax office. So chasing him, he didn't believe the debt was right. He knew the right asset protection and the right techniques. In the end, 2 years later, he goes to the ATO, how about I give you a 10 grand check and you leave me alone? They said, done. Gave him a 10 grand check, signed deed of settlement, walked away. Who thinks that's sexy? Why? Because he knew how to protect his assets and he knew his rights. So who thinks that knowing your rights is going to make you very rich? I'll show you shortly how much it actually does, just by some compounding numbers. It's quite incredible. Let's just show you some simple techniques about how to protect your assets. So let's just take the example here of Donald and Daisy. So Donald Duck is basically a beak surgeon. So he looks after beaks. Daisy stays home looking after the 4 kids, Huey, Dewey, Louie and Spewy. Now, of the 2 of them, Donald is a surgeon. Daisy's at home with the kids. Which one is more at risk of a lawsuit? Anyone disagree? No, good. Okay, so who should control the assets in this family? Daisy, agreed? Simple? Good point. Except, unfortunately, the family court you can't protect against, because in that situation, if Daisy walks out on him, she would have to hand over some of the assets to Donald in a family court settlement. It would be, but in theory, that's right. 50-50, 60-40, yes. So, everyone follow that. So, whose name should the family home be in? Daisy? Agreed? Okay, beautiful. If we're buying investment properties, whose name should it be in? Trick question here, because it should be in Daisy's name for asset protection purposes, but who gets negative gearing deduction? Donald, because he's paying getting all the income. So in that situation, you ideally, if you can, want to have it in a trust. Now keep in mind, there's a bit more complexities there, so you do need specific advice here, because you may not get negative gearing deductions in a trust, but having a trust. Okay? But who should basically control the trust with assets in the family? Daisy or Donald as a rule? Daisy? Daisy's correct. Apart from the rare situations and certain situations where you can't get around it because of the negative gearing rata, the general rule is Daisy should control the trust or have it in her own name. So Daisy should be what's called a trust appointer, or should be the company shareholder. Okay? So, companies and trusts. Let's just have another look at this one. So a company, you've got directors and you've got shareholders, okay? So directors, shareholders. Now directors are the ones at risk of being sued. Shareholders can't be sued. Who's got shares in BHP, Telstra or some public company? Put your hand up. If that company gets sued, can you be sued? No. So the shareholder is safe, basically, from being sued. Director usually is safe, but they can get through to the director personally. So in a company running a business, who should be director, Donald or Daisy? Well, Daisy, did she want to put herself at risk of being sued? No. Donald. So who should be the shareholder at no risk? Daisy. So Daisy is the one that has got no risk of being sued, or very little risk of being sued. So she should control the company, control the trust as what's called the appointer. So just all you got to remember here, because it can be a bit confusing, is who got the analogy of Donald and Daisy then, and why Daisy should control the assets. Everyone got that? Okay. So just think, when you're setting up a trust, you've got to be thinking, who should control the trust here? You should be applying your mind to that question. If I'm a lawyer and accountant, let's say that let's say that I've got a partner, and let's just say that she was like working in the government as a public servant. Who's more at risk of being sued? Me or my partner? Me, correct. So who should control the assets? She should, correct. So let's just say, by contrast, let's just say I'm a janitor and I clean floors. Not that I'm a great cleaner, by the way. And let's just say I've got a partner who's a brilliant financial planner. Who's the one who should control the assets there? Me. You all got that? Okay. Let me just show you another one now as well. It's called multiple structures. In very, very simple terms, that's this. Let's say Donald runs his surgeries for a company. Okay? Donald is about to buy some property, okay? Investment properties, and he's going to buy it in a trust. So why would he be buying it separately from the company? Anyone know? Yeah, because otherwise, if he owns his property in the company and the company gets sued, what happens to his property? Loses it. So, property. Now, here's another one. Let's say Donald decides to do some trading, and you're going to be hearing about some really great strategies like covered calls and put writing this weekend, stuff that we do ourselves. So trading is great stuff. Should trading be in that structure or that structure? In the trust? Anyone got a different view? The actual answer is, yeah, in a trust, but I'll be doing a separate trust for investments. Why? Because can he be sued as a landlord? Yes or no? Yes. So you want to separate. You all get that? You're basically keeping your structures separate. So what you're doing is you're creating a bit of a series of independent structures. Now I'm going to show you something really important that's just more sexy than anything else you've seen yet. This is something I learned from first-hand experience that literally saved my ass. And it's something a lot of accountants won't tell you. Who here is in business? Put your hand up. Keep your hand up. Who here is wanting to go into business and not? Okay. Who here is in business right now and you're structured as a sole trader or partnership? Put your hand up. So not through a company. Few of you. Okay. I'll show you something here. You've got Donald and Daisy here, okay? In partnership. Let's just say that Daisy owns a family home here. If Donald gets sued, or the partnership gets sued, the business, are their personal assets at risk, yes or no? Yes. Absolutely. And it gets worse. In partnerships, you're jointly and severally liable. So if Donald gets sued, because of something here, let's just say Donald did a really stupid thing in the partnership, nothing to do with Daisy, all Daisy's assets are still at risk. That makes it now, I'm going to show you something 10 times worse. Let's just say that, let's pick someone in the room. Who wants to go into partnership with me? Anyone? Okay. Okay, you can. What's your name? Salika. Hi. So Salika and I go into partnership together, okay? Let's just say Salika is, doing quite well. We join a partnership together. What's a sexy business? We start selling really sexy ice cream together. And we set up a series of franchises and selling it all over the place. Now, little did I know, but Salika's been skimming money very carefully out of the business. Very sneaky, because I'm just trusting her because she's got a sweet, innocent face. And I just would trust her totally. I have no idea, but she's a very sophisticated money launderer with years of training underground, and she's been skimming money from the business. A bit extreme, but let's just say she's just skimming money from the business, but I have no idea. One day I start to look at the books and I start asking questions and saying, something's just not quite right here, Salika. And no, it's all fine. But she starts to see I've got wind of what's going on. Next day I turn up at the office, Salika's gone. I'm ringing her mobile, no answer. Vanished. She's actually gone to the Cayman Islands, sitting there. She's now having cocktails, living it up, with millions of dollars in the bank account from skimming and investments and all kinds of stuff. Sounds good?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Good for you. Meanwhile, I've been discovered that there's been no BAS statements lodged for months because Salika was meant to do that, hasn't been done. There's $400,000 of group tax and GST owing that hasn't been paid. I just also found she signed a contract for $800,000 of someone 2 weeks before she left. I am liable for all that money, personally. My assets are all at risk. Who thinks that's pretty scary and pretty unsexy? So if you go into partnership with someone, is that a good structure to do, yes or no? No. Yet how many accountants set people up like that? Heaps, that's right. Is that crazy or what? Crazy. It's nuts. Let me show you something beautiful here. Let's just say that Donald and Daisy are in partnership, or myself and Salika, whatever. Company's going away. Let's just say that the company gets into a lot of trouble. It's racked up a $80,000 group tax debt or whatever else, and basically they're going to go bankrupt. They've made some bad decisions and things haven't worked out. They're going to go bankrupt. Let's say it's $180,000. Now, if it had been a partnership, they were sunk. They were screwed. In this structure, this is what they do. They either provided the ATO have inserted them with a director's penalty notice, they put the company into liquidation or voluntary administration. The moment they do that, the debt is gone. Who thinks that's very, very sexy? The ATO debt is gone. Finito. So basically, Donald and Daisy get this. Get out of jail free. Get out of jail free. Who's played Monopoly here? Yeah, well, that's, of course, for Monopoly. But who gets what I'm saying here? So if you're in business right now and you are not structured properly in a company or trust, what are you going to do about it? Get structured, quick, smart. It will save you, and it's not expensive to do it. Okay. Another one to cover on. Bloodline wills. So put your hand up here if you're married or you're in a relationship and you've got a few, 1, 2 or 3 or 4 kids, or 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 or 17 or 25. I know one of my friends had 17. So if you've got, anyone got kids who are teenagers or older? A few of you. Okay, let me show you something here. Donald and Daisy. So they've got Huey, Dewey, Louie, Spewy. Let's assume they've got 4 properties, okay? Now, they both die tragically in a boating accident. Now, Huey, Dewey, Louie and Spewy are going to get all the assets, including 4 properties and super, to divide between them. So 4 properties. Now let me ask you something. Who here has got siblings, brothers and sisters? Put your hand up. Who here would not particularly like sharing assets with your family members? Put your hand up. In other words, who would rather not be sharing properties with your brothers and sisters? I think a lot of us. I wouldn't, and I get on great with my brother and sister. So inevitably in those situations, what do they want to do? They want to say, well, let's just take 1 property each. Agree? That's quite common. Or sell some properties off and keep 2, and maybe Huey gets 1, Dewey gets the other. Now, here's the trick in a normal will. Let's just say that in a normal will, Huey, Dewey, Louie and Spewy are entitled to what, 1/4 each? So they get 1/4 each of each property, correct? So if Huey suddenly gets all of that property, who's now becoming very interested in what's going on here? ATO and stamp duty people. Why? Because basically all your kids have basically transferred or sold their share of the property over to Huey. Do you all get that? So guess what? Capital gains tax and stamp duty. Ouch. Ooh, that hurts. Here's another one for you. Let's just say that Huey's 23 years of age and he basically discovers that his partner's basically had 3 boyfriends on the side. And it breaks Daisy's heart and she and Donald basically die in the boating accident. Huey's partner, she's basically, now got 3 new boyfriends and she's chosen one of them, and she now wants as much of Huey's assets as she can because she's got no money, but she knows he's got some because of his mum and dad. Is she entitled to some of his assets in the will? The answer is yes. Why? Because the assets that go down to Huey will be included in Huey's assets that the family court will consider. So effectively, do you think Donald and Daisy will be happy about giving some money and assets over to Huey's partner who's got 3 boyfriends? Yes or no? No. Do you know of a proper bloodline will that can be avoided? Who's interested? In other words, you can stop that happening to your kids. Who thinks that's really good peace of mind, asset protection, safety? That's making sure your family stays with your kids. Let's just say Dewey's gone bankrupt and mum and dad die. Who's going to get his share of the estate? All the creditors. A bloodline will, Dewey can choose to keep the money in the estate and doesn't come out till he's out of bankruptcy and he gets a fresh start. Who thinks that's fantastic? Are you all starting to see why I say knowledge is so important? Who didn't know about bloodline wills till today? Put your hand up. A lot of us, didn't we? So these are the kind of things you want to have in your place. Okay. And finally, before we just touch tax minimisation, let me just quickly... Some of you, who's in a position where you've already got a few properties or assets, but you're not structured well at all and you know it? A few. Let's just say you've got 3 properties. They're worth $2 million. You're $400,000 debt. In simple terms, you set up a family trust, and by a series of transactions, you can create a second mortgage over that properties. And effectively, you might be able to increase your debt from $400,000 to $1.4. Why would you do that for? If someone's suing you and they see you've got a lot of debt against it, is that going to be less attractive to sue you? Yes. Because in practical terms, I can tell you now as a lawyer that when I used to be involved in suing people, we'd look at assets, and if we saw someone had, say, $2 million of property and 1.5 million, if properties are being sold in a lawsuit in a hurry, do you normally get market value? No. And after cost and everything, you probably get nothing. So what you're doing is creating a smoke screen or something to keep people away. Very cheap, not expensive, but makes your assets very secure. Okay. Tax minimisation. Some alarming tax facts for you. I mentioned that one, 69% tax. 48% of small business bankruptcies are indirectly because of government intervention or action, like a tax debt or something else. The average small business spends 1 day per week on paperwork or other work, but they only have to do because of government compliance or whatever, like with employee legislation or tax. Who's a small business and would tend to know what I'm talking about here? Yeah. Have a look at those numbers there. Remember I told you about tax minimisation actually makes you a lot of money, and I'm not kidding you. This will make you money faster than any trading strategy, anything else when you know with this. If you're paying the full, let's just say you make 20% per annum on $100,000 invested for 10 years, and believe me, when you hear some of the trading strategies in property this weekend, you'll realise that those returns are potentially attainable. No, I can't guarantee that, of course, but assuming you made that kind of return. That's what you got on the highest marginal tax rate, 441. If you've got a company, you got 30%. If you've got a superannuation fund at 15%, look at the difference. You jump up by $318,000. If you pay 0% tax because you're a perpetual traveller living offshore, you get your $100,000 turns into $1.378 million. Who thinks that's really cool? So look at the difference of paying almost half your money in tax compared to paying no tax by, say, being a perpetual traveller offshore. You have 3 times as much money after 10 years. And even in a company, just by using a company rather than your own name, you make an extra $231,000. And by putting money in super, you make a further $318,000 again. Look at 20 years. Is that insane or what? $100,000 becomes $5.2 million. Who could live off that? Just by tax planning. So obviously there's a million ways to do things about your tax. The Rudd government have proceeded to reduce them quite considerably because as far as they're concerned, anyone who earns over $50,000 is rich. But I've heard lately they've cracked down living away from home allowance, and I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, anyway, you'll get me on a crusade. The biggest secret the rich do to minimise tax, who wants to know the biggest secrets of the rich? They split income through structures. And believe me, there's a story in business, you earn, spend, and then pay tax. As a pay-as-you-go earner, you earn, pay tax, and then spend. And believe me, there's a lot of truth in that. I was saying, I love travelling. You know why? I've got no food bill. Because when you're a pay-as-you-go earner, can you claim your food as a tax deduction? Can you? No. However, when I'm travelling for business to speak here, can I claim my food? Yes, so my business pays it, so the government effectively subsidising my food. My car I hire and travel around in, paid for. So effectively, my food, where I'm staying, everything like that, I basically have no food bill when I'm here. It's all paid for. But if you buy, say, US property as an investor and you travel over there, can you claim your trip as a tax deduction, yes or no? You can, provided you're going over there to inspect your property. If you're in business, let's just say that I've got to fly over, which I do to do a seminar like this, and let's just say that I go to Byron Bay, which I always do. I love Byron. Who loves Byron? Byron Bay. I love Byron Bay. Food's just great. So I go to Byron Bay. Effectively, I've got a couple of days down in Byron Bay. I still can claim most of my expenses as tax deduction. There's only a little portion I can't. So pretty much, My travel, everything starts to become tax deductible. Can you see why business and structures are so advantageous, yes or no? My mobile can be paid for through my business. Again, I'm on a cap plan, things like that. So pretty much you suddenly start to find quick by bit your cost. My internet, I've got an internet mobile broadband, I need it because I travel around all the time to seminars. $30 a month it cost me. Claim that as well. So effectively, are you starting to see how quickly my expenses, which I have to pay tax on, are reducing? You're getting the picture? So the biggest secret is by structures and by knowing what you can claim, running your business through companies, trusts, and certainly by income splitting. Now, obviously, if I work as a law firm and I'm a lawyer, I can't split that income. But let's just say I run a business trading stocks. Can I split my income trading stocks, yes or no? Yes, I can, the answer is. So if I've got a wife, if I've got kids, whatever else, within limits, I can split my income and get the lower tax rates. So companies, 30%, trusts, superannuation. Companies, you pay 30% tax, I've mentioned, limited liability, they stop lawsuits. A couple of warnings to companies. Number one is don't use to buy and hold assets, use a trust. Just keep in mind, if you're going to be buying and holding assets, be very careful how you structure. Number two, don't make payments out of a company without advice. You could pay tax as high as 76%. Who thinks it's very unsexy? I'm serious. You could end up paying tax at 76% if you start pulling money out your company for personal use and you don't have the right paperwork in place. So very, very important that you get this right. Trust, benefits. You can split income, number one. Number two, you control, not own assets. And the best way to explain that is this. Let's just say that William, my son who you've seen, is now 17 and he's driving my car because I let him use it. Yeah, he grew up fast. He gets pulled over by the cops. Let's just say they want to confiscate the car from him under whom legislation. What's going to be his argument? Not my car. So he's controlling the asset, but what? He doesn't own it. So another secret of the rich, they control assets, but they don't own it. They don't what? They don't own it. They do what? They, come everyone with me, they do what? They control it. We're all falling asleep here. But you can live a bit later on. But seriously, control, not own. The more you can control assets but not own, the better. I'll give you a very, very basic example. Now, it's more complex than this, but I just want to show you a simple example of how just using a trust can save you tax. So Donald, Daisy, family trust, surgery. Let's say Donald earns $200,000 a year as a surgeon, and believe me, if I've got friends who are surgeons, I can't believe what they get paid. I tell people in law school, don't go to law school, go to medical school. Seriously, most lawyers who've been in 5, 10 years, they're making 140 income, are doing well. Assistant surgeons, that means you just assist the surgeons, make $400,000 a year. Surgeons make over $1 million a year, so if you want to make money and work for it, become a surgeon. Anyway, just my little whinge. So surgeon, it gets $200,000 a year. So is he going to be paying a high tax rate, yes or no? Yes. While Daisy's going to be paying minimal tax, okay? So let's just say that they make $100,000 through trading the stock market. Who do they want that income to go to? Daisy. So the money goes to Daisy. Now, if it went to Donald, he would be paying $46,500. Goes to Daisy, she's paying something like about $25,000. Big difference? Better still, there's a couple of other things too. The kids can also get some of that money. Only, unfortunately, it used to be $3,000. They've changed the law in the wonders of the Rudd government, or sorry, what is it, the Gillard government now. Keep forgetting about that. $416 per child, tax-free. And not just that, but let's just say that they give 10% of their money to charity or humanitarian. Is a church tax deductible, yes or no? The answer is no, it's not. If you give 10 grand to a church, it comes out of after-tax income. In a trust, it comes out of pre-tax income. So effectively, in a trust, you can give money to a church or any charity, ATO approved or not, and claim a deduction. Who thinks that's incredibly sexy? So, effectively, you can save a huge amount of money just by putting it through a trust. Believe me, my trust saves me tax every year at a massive level. I now have set up my own foundation personally, which I use for distributing, and that can basically receive pre-tax money through my trust. There's a few other things I could mention, but I won't. Not on stage anyway. So, what you can claim, but seriously, I mean, I'm giving you a touch. There's a lot of things you can do. And the more you get mastery and you learn the tax laws or you learn the basics and how to handle yourself, you can seriously save an absolute fortune. Claiming deductions, depreciation, laptop, electricity, home office rates, taxes. Negative gearing, I've mentioned about US property, and if you go to US, you can claim inspection costs. So anyone who buys a rental property in another state, you could go over there and, let's say you want to buy one in Perth, we've got great beaches over there. You can come to Perth and get to see my lovely face and enjoy Perth and effectively claim a tax deduction for coming over. Pretty cool? Wealth education. Now, here's a big one, because we're going to be asked the question a lot this weekend. Can I claim my courses I buy this weekend? I'm sure you want to know that, right? Sorry? Yeah, well, basically the rule is in the ATO, I've been in discussions with the ATO and actually had a couple of audits in the past. The rule is basically this. There's a line here called when you start a business. So, if you start a business, basically, the point you start a business is the point you can claim deduction. So let's just say you buy a course to learn how to trade the stock market this weekend or trade options. Can you claim that, yes or no? No, because you haven't started trading yet. Let's just say you already are a professional Forex trader and you buy a course how to trade options. Can you claim it, yes or no? Yes, you can, because it relates. Simple example. To be carrying on the business, the ATO have a number of factors. Things like, do you have a trading plan is one. Very, very important. We can provide you with a template on that if you need one, but otherwise you basically have to have a business or trading plan. And when we've gone through audits, the tax office, the first thing they ask for is, do you have a trading plan? Because in the minds of an ATO auditor, they assume if you're a serious trader, you will have a trading plan, which means a document written out telling you systems and everything else you can do. So in simple terms, if you buy, say, property course, for example, like investment course, the general rule is you can't claim it, unfortunately. It's a very rare situation you can. If you buy an internet marketing or online marketing course, if it relates to a current business you're in, yes, you can claim it. If it doesn't, no, you can't. So that's the simple rules about wealth education. You're doing well, everyone. Just stay with me. We're just coming to the last part now. Just put the slides back on, could you? Okay. Car expenses as well. So you can claim up to 5,000 kilometres without receipts. So if you travel more than 5,000 k's for business, keep a logbook. You have to keep a logbook for 3 months over 5 years, basically, for 3 months, and then that logbook can last up to 5 years. So I've mentioned about trading plan, options, wealth, expenses, carrying on. So simple rules that have a trading plan if you're going to be doing any trading, and basically keep receipts. So in simple terms, in summary, what I'm saying there is the richest secret is splitting income, number one. Number two is controlling or owning assets. And number three is knowing what you can claim. And you've probably all heard in business a lot of things which I'm able to claim, which obviously just because I'm in business. Now we're going to briefly have a look at superannuation. So, self-managed funds. Who here has got a self-managed fund? Quite a few. Who here basically wants to buy property or whatever else and you got, say, 40 or 50 or grand more in super? Okay, a few, but no self-managed fund. Okay, a self-managed fund means that rather than BHP or AMP or mutual trust or whatever, managing your super, you manage your own super. So, for example, You can take control of your retirement money, you can buy US property, you can do trading of it, something like that. So, for example, we've had clients do trading. You can trade like covered calls in a super fund. You can buy US property, you can buy property options. So you'll hear over the course of this weekend different speakers. Most things you can do. Sadly, you can't do E-minis and you can't do at the moment, and you're limited with Forex as well. But you can't do E-minis or futures at the moment. So when you learn all that at the weekend, because you can't borrow in a super fund. 15% tax and 0% tax if after 60. So the biggest thing with superannuation is any money which you know you won't need till you're 60, use and set up a self-managed fund. And use your super rather than use your own name. Expenses from your super fund. People ask me, can I claim my course through my super fund? The short answer is, let's just say that you buy a US property membership this weekend, and you'll know what I mean when you hear that, or you buy a trading course of some kind. Provided it's used exclusively and only for super, you can claim it. If it's not used exclusively for super, then you can't. So let's say that you're trading both in your own name and your super fund, you can't claim it. Auditors have been pretty clear with me on that one. And trading in the markets. Buying Australian or US property. Okay, so rounding up now. Who's learned a few things anyway tonight? I know it's late, you've done really well. Who's enjoyed the speeding and parking fines? Who likes the idea of being able to protect your assets and your wealth? And being able to slash some tax? Believe me, there's very creative things you can do. One of the things I always finish off talking is a bit about the why factor, a little bit more about some of the stuff I spoke about earlier. I'm a very big believer in anything we do in life with a purpose. And I mentioned the Richard Branson event and those who were there. Something that Richard Branson said that blew everyone's mind, and this is a guy who we all understand is a billionaire, very wealthy. Richard Branson pretty much, when asked to give advice to everyone, he said, don't be in business for the money. He said, money is the reward that you get. He said, he started Virgin originally because he wanted to help music people. And he said he just tried to find ways to help people because he really wanted to help people. And before he knew it, he found all he cared about was making sure he had more money coming in than it was going out. Then before he knew it, he had a business going, oh, okay. And then it grew and grew, but he never wanted to keep it too big. So every time a company hits more than 100 staff, he cuts the company and splits it. So no Virgin company anywhere has got more than 100 staff. But basically, he says to this day still, it's not about the money for him. It's about his family, it's about lifestyle, it's about helping people. So at the end of the day, we want to be wealthy, we want to be financially free, but who wants to be doing it and knowing you're actually making a positive impact in the world? I mean, Jamie today did that, that funeral epilogue type of thing. You want to basically, at the end of your life, look back and know you're proud. No one at the end of their life ever looks back and actually says, I wish I made more money and worked harder. They all say what? They wish what? Lloyd life more, took more risks. My dad's like 75 now, and an interesting talk. My dad's always been conservative, was always afraid to take risks with investing, drove my mum absolutely nuts. My dad said to me, if I had my time again, he said, there's a few things I've done differently. He said, I would have taken far more risks. He said, I would have invested more, I would have been more willing to lose money, and I would have taken more risks in life than I have. So, and my dad's always been conservative and always been very stubborn. And so, more and more people today in Australia are living just over broke, struggling day to day without purpose, just existing. The reason why a lot of us are here tonight is because, let's be honest, how many of us are here and don't really enjoy your job and you want something more to life than what you're doing? A lot of us. And that's why you're here. So there's a why. It's like, why are you doing this? You're here to make a difference for yourself, for other people. We cannot impact our country, our education, and make a difference that the world needs. We do need to have a greater purpose beyond ourselves. And the reason I do this is I'm very passionate about educating people to prosper in all areas of life and to make people aware of the system and what I believe is going on in government. We've all seen the global financial crisis and the impact it's having. Who's heard of Harry Dent? He reckons we've got another round coming. And economists have been saying for years that there's going to be more. There's going to be a bit more pain happening in business. And I was at a recent seminar with a brilliant businessman who had Harry Dent speaking there as well. He pretty much said we've got more pain ahead, and businessmen are going to have to be smarter to get ahead, and investors are going to have to be even smarter to pick opportunities. It's going to be Lions starve last in jungle was what he used. So you'll need a spiritual purpose and a strong wealth and mindset. I mean, these days when we've experienced challenges, these days, like I said, it goes off me like waters of a duck's back now. Why? I've been through it, and because I've got a purpose that drives me beyond money. If I've got lots of money or don't have much, to be honest, it doesn't bother me either way. A bank president basically, just quoting what he said here about a great economic crash, but what he says very encouraging is that wealth never disappears, it transfers to those who are managers and know what to do with it. So that's why you're here this weekend, and that's what I'm here to say to you. Part of your management strategy to be wealthy is to be able to protect your assets and know how to do this properly. Who's heard of this New World Order and cash society and all that? We're seeing it happen all the time now, where scanners at the supermarkets, all that kind of stuff. World tax system, I mean, a colleague of mine was at a conference in Mexico where they pretty much admitted that they want to basically have all the tax system worldwide now, so they can pretty much wipe out the cash economy, everything like that. So taxes, are they increasing or reducing at the moment? Increasing. So we're seeing this all the time now. I mean, speeding fines, parking fines. I mean, it's actually quite interesting. My father and mother, who always used to get quite annoyed at me about the fact that I fight speeding fines and parking fines, for the first time are saying to me, whinging about it and wanting to know how I do it. Because they're getting fed up with the fact, and they're very safe drivers. My mum and dad, very safe. My mum was driving, I think it was 87 in an 80 zone and got given a fine. Now, who often, number one, picks, just without realising, goes a little bit over? We all do that? Number two, the fact is they've proven radar cameras are known to be an average 10% out in their readings, often up to 10%, and they've been known to be up to 4 or 5 times out when they've had a gust of wind. A gust of wind, a tree, a few other things, and the radar camera operator admits in their manual that those things can put the radar reading out. So a lot of these is about taxes, about effectively increasing taxes, things like that. So we're seeing our rights and our tax laws erode all the time. And again, it's by becoming aware and becoming knowledgeable that we can start to make some change. And that also, why do I teach this? Because it's critical in our wealth building. Because if our freedoms are being eroded, it's interesting because I'm actually discovering, as I go to a lot of wealth conferences now, and I go to more than ever, I'm finding this is becoming a uniform spiel from people who up to now used to poo-poo this as conspiracy theories. Who's heard of Ted Nicholas, a billionaire in Switzerland? Ted goes around, he's one of the most famous direct marketer and sellers in the world. An absolute legend. They got him to Australia 6 months ago and I basically dropped everything to go here. Ted Nicholas was speaking about this and more. He pretty much now has set up, but he actually directly promotes things into America to teach people how to set up tax shelters, everything else, and to help people get freedom and get what he believes, know how to stand up to the system and not pay too much tax. Know how to use corporations' trust. He actually begged everyone at the seminar, if you're in business, if you're investing, get a structure. And more people now are realising the government's agenda, bit by bit, is to remove private wealth and have more and more of it run through government. So, again, it's understanding and getting your knowledge, and this is the time to do it now while the sun still shines, to get your knowledge and to start getting skills in building wealth, building money, minimising your tax so you can keep what you're making and make a difference. Evil triumphs when good men remain silent, Martin Luther King. Just a quick one I'll just chuck in for you here. This is the anti-avoidance provisions of the tax law. The tax law now allows the ATO to undo a commercial tax arrangement with tax-driven motive. Even worse of GST, the Commissioner of Tax has been given the power to basically lie. Who thinks that's pretty concerning? If you don't believe me, have a look at this. The tax office can now treat an event that happened as not having happened. Even the accountants and lawyers are outraged. There was so much complaints about this and fighting. Treat an event that not actually happened as having happened, and if appropriate, treat the event as having happened at a particular time and having involved particular action by an entity. My favourite. Treat an event that happened at a different time and having involved particular action by an entity, whether or not the event actually involved in the action by the entity. So in other words, it's saying, I've got a company called John Smith Proprietary Limited. The Commissioner of Tax can just decide, we're going to presume, but that company made a $100,000 transaction and you're going to pay 10 grand GST to us. So that's what we're up against now. So tax planning and asset protection and all that are meaningless if you've got the right mindset. It's being educated, knowing your rights. Here's a very quick, interesting one for you, just a bit of a sneak preview as to how I get out of census and speeding fines and a few other things. Who wants to know that? It's understanding the order of creation here. God creates man or woman, who creates government, who creates persons. See, most of us assume that we're basically, the government treats you as a person. I'll show you something on this one. Just put the camera on this. And this is for another time, another place, but I'll just show you something interesting here. It's my full name, so you know, Warren Stewart Black. That's actually a very different person at law to this person. They're two different people. Who never knew that? Blackstone's Legal Dictionary. By doing that, they've turned you into a person. Put the slides back up, thanks. So what happens is God, or however you perceive God, creates man or woman, who creates government, who creates person. So the government is meant to what? Serve the people. But is it the other? But what's a public servant? They serve someone. Who's their master? Now, who's the master? Who's the master of a public servant? The public. Who's that? Us. Thomas Jefferson actually said government should fear their people, not people fear their government. But by doing that and by capitalising your name and other things, they basically now, it's pretty much, that among other things, means we become pretty much a slave or subservient to government. But why do government exist when you read the Constitution? They exist to bring peace, order and harmony in the land. Very interesting. So when I had my census, all I said to them is basically, I'm not a person and I wasn't resident in Australia. Now, there's a whole lot of legal terminology I used there, but they just walked away and said, fine. I got to my voting fine. They fined me for voting. I forgot to go to the election. I was too busy. They fined me. I just wrote one legal notice. With 2 paragraphs, they waived the fine immediately. Important to know? So, it's all about freedom of choice. And believe me, this is not just isolated. Don't just think it's just a pet hobby of mine. It's not just isolated to speeding fines and the rights about whether you want your kids vaccinated or not, or whatever else you happen to be doing. It's about having power in your life. Power to stop bullies. If you can stop your child being bullied, do you think you can stop the government bullying you? Do you think you can stop the tax office bullying you? Do you think you'll know how to deal with an ATO auditor? Do you think so? I mean, I know clients who stand up to government and clients who don't. The ones who try and almost bow to the government are the ones who end up paying huge fines. The ones who stand up are the ones who walk out of it virtually free. So, anyway, summary. Just quickly, before I come to an end here, I'm just going to give you a sneak preview. I'm actually doing up a special course and news that are about to come out shortly to teach basic legal rights. Who's interested in that? If you are, make sure you see us afterwards, put your name down. We're going to be sending emails around anyway to everyone. But there's going to be initially a free course to basically just teach people legal rights. And you can put your name on and basically get some basic tips. It'll tell you everything, not just about speeding and parking fines, but the biggest ones. How to deal with mortgages, people chasing you for money, speeding fines, harassment in the workplace, how to collect money from people who owe you money. Who thinks this is quite useful stuff? Very useful. Okay, so I know it's been really late, you've been fantastic. Who's enjoyed tonight? Thank you, you've been great. Okay, so really now, as we finish off, it's about using the accountants that millionaires deal with. So, not using, a lot of you I'm sure got accountants you're happy with, and if you are, that's fantastic, as I'll show you shortly. But if you really want accountants who are going to and specialists who are going to give you practical solutions in dealing with your tax and your structuring, and you want to get things looked at, then come and see us. This weekend, we have got free assessments or consultations this weekend. Where's Derek? Let's get Derek to stand up there. I was going to say with William, but William's not available just at the moment. My son. So Derek will go through and I'm also going to be available for different other kinds of consults to have a look at your affairs, to structure to be wealth/tax and be scumbag proof. Now, who should come for a consult? So as you're finishing off, who should come? The first person is if you're sick and tired of accountants who think you're speaking a foreign language when you say you're trading the markets or wanting to buy property. Who's in that boat? Anyone? Couple? Yep. Okay. So if that's the case and you've encountered that, you're frustrated and you want accountants who get what you're about and who are willing to be creative while 100% legal. Anyone in that boat? Yep. So if that's your situation, then definitely come and see us. You're starting out, you're committed now, you're ready to go, you got your business plan or whatever else, and you want to be structured right as of now. Anyone like that? Yep, so you want to get going now and do it properly. You want to take your business to the next level and keep golding scumbags and governments far from your assets. So you're already in business right now, and you basically want to make sure that your wealth that you're building is safe. Anyone in that boat? Yep. You're well structured and very happy with your existing accountant, but just want to get a second opinion. So in other words, I'm not here to try and steal you away from your accountant. You've been with Joe, your family accountant, for years. You just basically want to see someone and want to engage a proper opinion. So the free consult itself won't give you a second opinion, just to be clear, but you want to talk to someone about what would be involved in getting a second opinion. Is that clear? Okay, you're wanting to buy US property. You want to make your super account and start investing in US property or covered calls and get a self-managed fund ready to go. Now, who should not come? If you already have an accountant, you're happy, you're fine, you don't see any major need to change. Don't bother. I mean, seriously, I'm not into breaking up happy marriages. You're just starting out and don't have a lot of money and don't want to go into business at this time. So in other words, if you're a pay-as-you-go earner, you're starting out, to be honest with you, there's not a lot we can do for you, except maybe we can do your tax returns, do a few things. There's not a lot of creative things we can do with pay-as-you-go. You'll probably find it would be time spent with us, and although we'd love to help you, it probably wouldn't assist you at this time. And you're just basically not intending to trade or buy property. And again, as I said, if you're that, you'll probably find your normal accountant can actually help you better than we can. And if you want to get one of those bloodline wills, so if you've got kids, who's got teenage kids or over and don't have a bloodline will? Yep, definitely have a chat to us there and we can sort that out for you.